Right. So, hello, FTC teams. I'm Eliame.
I'm Sione.
And I'm Billy Bogue.
And we are part of the Happy Dave team here in Juneau, Alaska.
Ame and I have been part of 1st and 4th grade, and Billy is our newest member. We wanted to invite you to share information on judging and team strategy.
We invited Dave Patterson to share. Hi, Dave. Can you start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you became a part of FIRST?
Oh, it's a dangerous thing to ask me to tell stories. So I got started with FIRST. Having my own dog crisis. I got started with FIRST because a young student asked me for help. A friend of my daughter's was over here and said, Mr. Patterson, we're doing this robotics project. We need some help. And as much as I tried to back out of it, my daughter wouldn't let me. And I looked down the hall at my wife and I said, they want me to get involved. I'm not doing it unless you give me permission. She did. And that was over 25 years ago. And the reason that I'm involved is because something very profound happened at that first championship that we went to all those years ago. And a young student was interviewed on ABC Evening News. And he said, until I got involved in this program, no adult in my life had ever taken the time to show me what I was capable of. Well, I decided then that I wanted to be that adult and provide those opportunities to students throughout Alaska. And that's what started the journey. I've been involved in all levels of FIRST programs, FRC, FTC, FLL, and we've been doing it pretty much the entire time that those programs have been offered, with the exception of FRC. We didn't get started on that until 99-2000 season. But when FLL came on board, we got on board with that. When FTC came on board, we got on board with that too. So that's kind of where I started and where I'm at. And I think I've done just about everything between here, there, and as far as FIRST Robotics goes.
That's really inspiring. So we had some other questions, but you answered it really fast. But what types of jobs and responsibilities do you have at the competition?
Yes. It depends on what level we're running and where I'm most needed at a given time frame. For this year, for First Tech Challenge, I am the head referee for the state of Alaska. And Steve Ives is the judge advisor, the regional judge advisor for Alaska as well.
That's really cool, actually. Sienna's just going to give a short little about tips and tricks about judging real fast, and then we'll get into the other stuff.
All right. Cool. Yeah, so I'm going to share some tips and tricks about judging really quick. And then we'll go down. I think each of us prepared a little something, and then we'll get back to you about certain stuff. So Ame and I have done countless judgings, and we've done it since we were 4th grade. We've done FIRST. And from with all of our experience, we pulled some of these tricks and tips for judging for all those FTC teams. the first tip that we came up with was to set roles and responsibilities when coming to questions. Um, just quick, like I've always, if you know me, you know I'm a talker. I love to talk. And sometimes I know what I'm talking about, and other times I don't. And when it comes to questions, I love questions and I answer them a ton. Um, but it does, when it comes to judging, um, it doesn't allow other teammates to shine in what they're really good at. And I've seen this a little bit. Had the opportunity to be an FLL coach, and I was able to see this in other teams where there's tons of different types of people. There's talkers, there's people who are a little bit more shy, and just all these different things. But in a really good tip that you can set as coaches and as team members is to have set questions for people. If a question comes up about the robot, there's certain people about it, right? When it comes to outreach for our team, we ask Ame. Ame will specialize in those questions. Um, and this helps it so that there isn't one person dominating the judging room. Another thing that we have is we like to there's a judging rubric online, and it shows a lot of the questions that the FTC judges will ask. And what you can do as a team is to go through those questions over and over, and your coaches can also ask those really hard questions, because that way when we get into judging, that there won't be any surprise questions or things like that. um, our third tip sorry so our third tip is we will make sure that when we give our presentation before questioning, that we what am I thinking of?
You do it over and over and over again, and you keep on
No,
practicing.
We try to focus different pieces on the different awards that we're trying to go for. So my job was, with my piece of the presentation, I was supposed to do stuff for the Inspire Award, and Ame and Billy and Ario for different awards. The fourth thing, there's a ton, sorry, um, is that in order to, so that no one talks over each other, that they will step forwards and um, that they will step forwards, and that no one else will talk over it. Anyways, those are some of the tips that we came up with. Is there any more tips that you have found over the years, Dave, that you would like to add to it?
Well, all of those are really, really great points, because it does help the interview go a lot smoother if we have kind of a purpose, direction, and focus. And it's very important for us to be able to sense and understand that everybody on the team has their role, and everybody on the team is critical to the success of the team. So that's a dynamic that we need to see. So those were some very good points that you pointed out there. And I see Steve has joined us. So just to catch you up, Steve, the question, they went through some tips and tricks from a team perspective on the judging session. And now the question out to us is, what do we have to offer as far as the judging session it goes itself? And I was just starting to discuss some of that. I think one of the things, particularly for me, having judged at the championships, is we want, as judges, to hear your story. You're on an adventure, and we want to hear all about the adventure from both an engineering perspective and from a personal perspective. So in that couple of minutes, what was the most exciting thing that you did? You know, how did you come up with this idea? And then talk to those kind of things. Tell us your story. And also be proud of what you have done and show us what it is that makes you unique. Because the judges interview a number of teams, and a lot of times the things that they remember most are the things that make you unique. So, what about you, Steve? What would you offer up?
The other thing that I think is important is that you need to show the judges your enthusiasm for being in first and accomplishing what you've done this particular session. Always remember gracious professionalism at all times. So do not talk over the top of each other, because that shows disrespect from the judge's standpoint. We don't want, but we want to hear from all of your team, not just one or two of the team. We want to hear the story from every team, every member of your team.
And one of the other things that's really important, and it's not so much a function of the judging session itself, but the engineering notebook is key and critical to all aspects of judging. Because if you notice in the descriptions of most of the awards, having your engineering notebook is one of the requirements. And what it needs to document is it needs to document what your journey was in this entire process. We're not interested in hearing that Pete had 5 slices of pepperoni pizza on Thursday. But we are interested in how you prototyped a particular component of your robot to test it, or how you were able to test it in CAD, and the CAD designs that demonstrated the success or failure of that particular component. So it's the engineering aspects of your journey that we're really looking for. And then also the documentation on the other aspects like outreach and that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. Do you guys have, oh, what were you going to say?
Now, what the judges are interested in is the process. And whether it's design, build, outreach, we want to see your process and how you got things done.
Yeah.
And if you notice on your awards that each award has a must that has to be in your engineering notebook. So you have to meet at least that criteria. You should also have some of the shoulds and coulds as well, if that makes sense for your engineering notebook.
Yeah. Thank you guys. What is some qualities you guys look for in a team while you're judging them?
That's a good question. One of the things that I look for is cohesiveness of the team. I want to see how your team works together, and that comes from the fact I used to be I'm a core values judge as well, and that's one of the things that we look for in FLL is how the team gets along together and solves problems, and that's what is a big part of FIRST. Naturally, is solving problems, and we want to see that.
Dave?
So, like Steve said, seeing that you're working together cohesively as a team, and also what your organization skills are, in terms of how you are organized, how you present it, the sequence you present it in, all of that goes to being efficient with the little amount of time that you have to do your presentation. But enthusiasm and like I said, something that's unique about your team. I once judged a group of students from Denmark. They all showed up in pink. Guys had pink suits, the girls had pink dresses. They stood out. You knew them in a crowd. It was something that was unique about them. And that was something I judged like 8 years ago, and I still remember them.
On the reverse side, what is something that really hurts a team during judging?
Again, disorganization in your presentation. And repeating the same thing over and over again. We want to hear your, as Dave says, we want to hear your story, but that should be a coherent story.
I think that one of the points that you made earlier when you were going through your points is have everybody prepared to answer certain aspects of questions so that when the question comes up, the person that's going to answer already knows that they're going to answer that question. Because there are some times when I've seen teams in the judging room and they're doing this is like, okay, who's going to answer that one? So it's very good for the teams to have that kind of organization so that they do know who's going to answer which types of questions, and then the answers are complete, but also very succinct.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In addition to that, everyone should have the ability to answer a question, because in case something comes up, someone gets sick, someone needs to fill that in. So everyone should know all the answers, but pick the one who point to the person or have that person who's most cognizant of that particular aspect to speak.
Yeah, thank you.
So in that same area of if someone doesn't show up, what should a team do if one of the members completely falls apart during the judging?
Like has a meltdown?
I guess the best thing to do is try to live through it. If the person falls apart, somebody else must take their answers and whatnot, and provide information. Just give that person a little bit of time to regroup. So if somebody else takes that part of the question, and then maybe the next question in that vein, that person can answer.
And one of the things that I look for is I look to see if that's something that's happening in a group. And one of two things will occur. I'll just say, okay, just take a moment, take a breath, settle in, and then start to answer the question. Give them a pause, a little pause there, and just say, I got it. It's tough. Let's regroup. Or would you rather have somebody else answer that? And so the judges have a little bit of empathy for that, and it manifests itself in a variety of different ways. But that's all part of the judging experience. And even if somebody gets to a point where they aren't able to say anything, there are reasons for that, and judges understand that. And it's just The question is, how do you proceed through that? You know, hey, Dana, would you like me to take that question for you? You know, something like that. Or if the judge says something, you know, just give that person a chance to regroup.
And what I will do is I'll say, I understand it. It's nervous being up there. Why don't we come circle back on that question and do this question instead? And then that gives them a little time to regroup.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to know that the judges are like on your side and they're gonna help you out.
Well,
On a lighter, huh?
that's part of our job is to take and get the best out of you.
On like a happier note, do you guys have like a favorite moment from judging, or like a funny thing that happened, or something that you remember the most?
Could you rephrase that question again?
Like, do you guys like have a favorite moment from like a judging session? Something that you've remembered?
There have been so many. Um, I judged at a qualifier just this last weekend, and one of the teams came in and they were all dressed like minions, and they came in playing a kazoo, and that made a definite impression immediately that these people were having fun and wanted the judges to have fun with them.
Whew. Yeah, there's been a couple over the course of time. But I have to tell you that this last year at the championships was probably the biggest impact on me, because I told you the story about the young gentleman that said those very profound words 25 years ago. I had a team that was from a school that was similar to that, because that gentleman was from, I think it was Brookline School in LA, in the LA school district. And it's one of those last chance, if you don't make it here, you're not going to get through school. And I had a team from one of those schools at the championship. And when I interviewed them, they were literally so overwhelmed by the fact that they were there as a team at the World Championship that it was very hard for them to talk. And we just took a few moments in that judging session, and I said, okay, I want to hear your stories. What is it that FIRST means to you, and what has it done for you? And that's what they told me. And every one of them had a very life-changing story about how FIRST had literally saved their lives. And that was probably the most significant judging session that I have ever been in, because here was a group of students that basically said, if it wasn't for FIRST, I'd be out on the streets. And that to me was kind of a reboot of 25 years ago.
Such a powerful story. Man, this is going to be an awkward transition. So to transition though from the judging portion over to the robot game, Billy and then our fellow teammate Oreo, they're going to share a little something they prepared, and then we'll go to stuff about robot game. Billy.
So when we are trying to figure out the strategies for driving, usually what we do is go over to the team that we are going to be allied with, and then we just figure out what their robot and their driver can do and what our robot and our driver can do. And something that really helps us just visualize what we're saying is to have a little map of the board so we can just physically point out where we want to go, how we want to do things, whatever. And usually what we end up doing, the strategies that we end up deciding on, are either both teams pick up pixels from the human player and then put it on the backboard, or we have one team moving pixels to the backboard and then or one robot moving pixels to the backboard and then the other robot putting them on the backboard. And using our two highly skilled drivers, we are able to apply these strategies to large effect.
Yeah, so a lot of our robot strategy came from like knowing the strengths of our team. We knew that our team captain Kyson was a very strong driver, and when it comes to the robot game, that you need to build on like the strengths of the different kids and what they're good at. Me, I'm a pretty good cheerleader. I cheer pretty loudly. And Kyson's a really great driver. Billy as well. Ario is our wonderful programmer. And Ario is going to share a couple things, and then we'll move on to questions.
Okay. So I kind of want to talk about autonomous real quick. So if I can share my screen and it works. Come on. Here we go. Anyway, I hope it's working. So for autonomous, the max that we're trying to get there, but the easiest max points you can get is 45 because you can get if you're using a team prop, you can get the pixel in the right spot, and then you can also put one in the backboard in the right spot and then park. So if you're over here, that's probably the best thing you should do. But if you're starting over here, personally, I wouldn't try to put the pixel on the backboard because there's a bunch of variables that you don't know. Because the robot could start messing up halfway through. And then I don't know if you have enough time to actually get it on there in the right spot because the other robot might be in the way. So I just recommend to just like park over here. And well, same thing for red. But that's also how you kind of have to talk to that with the other team that you're teamed up with. Because maybe you have the better program for this side or they do. Depends on that. And then for the driver portion, mosaics are really helpful to get points because they're 10 points each, plus you get 3 points for each pixel. That's what 3 different colored pixels like stacked near each other. So there's like the multiple methods to that. You can get like both teams focus on one, or you just split off and you put one on this side, and then you or the other one puts it on this side. That's what at regionals. That's what a couple teams did, and it worked really well. And yeah.
Cool. Thank you for that, Ario. To move on to the robot game. So as judges in the robot game, sorry, I'm just trying to read through this real quick. What advice do you give to teams who end up in bad driving situations? Something like a part of the robot breaks down, or there's an argument between the person,
The drivers.
between the drivers and things like that.
Well, as far as the robots breaking down, dropping parts, um, doing things that everybody's going, who programmed it to do that? That's all part of what the game is all about, is figuring out and working through all of that stuff. I will say over the course of the years that I really haven't had anybody arguing, but I have had some folks with some very loud direction calling, saying, go forward, go left, go right, that kind of thing. So that has been kind of interesting at times. But as far as a strategy goes, over the course of the years, one of the things I've looked at or I've seen is a couple of different strategies that have been employed in each of these games. And I always, anytime I go into a new team that's starting or a team that's just starting a season, I give them a warning. I say, hey, this isn't about having great ideas. There are plenty of great ideas. What you've got to figure out collaboratively as a team is which one, two, or three of those great ideas you're actually going to build into your robot. And that's what's really tough. And so, like, for instance, this year, having a strong autonomous program that's able to execute that 45-point autonomous function, that's a very good strategy, because that gets you on the board early, particularly in autonomous. There was a game a number of years ago called Velocity Vortex. And I don't know if anybody other than Steve, I, and Allison, and maybe Heather remember Velocity Vortex. But this had a device in the middle of the field that had like baskets on it. And the idea was that you had to put these yoga balls up in those baskets as part of endgame. Yeah, yoga ball. It wasn't a huge yoga ball, but it was sizable. And in the interim, you had these smaller balls that you had to shoot into these baskets to score points. There was one team that decided they weren't going to have anything to do with that yoga ball. Weren't going to touch it, wasn't going to play with it, but what they were going to do is they were going to be the best robot on the field that could shoot the little balls into the basket automatically from anywhere on the field. And they were able to go around and scoop the balls up and shoot them into the basket. I mean, it was like a free throw medley, it's just boom, 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 boom. That team with that strategy ended up winning, being the alliance captain for the winning team at the championship that year. Because what they would do is they would strategically align themselves with somebody who had figured out how to put the yoga ball in a basket. So they could focus on what they did very well. The other team could focus on what they did very well, and they complemented each other. So it's not about the great ideas, it's which ones are you going to execute, and how would you implement that strategy across the board. And the other biggest thing that I can tell you is read the rules, read the rules, read the rules. And oh, by the way, there are forum updates. We are up to over 300 of them now. And trust me, I know, because I have to read them every week just before we get into a match. And sometimes it does affect and call out and point out different aspects of the robot game. And that's what we try to cover down on when we do the drivers meeting.
That's really cool. What's like been something that you guys have like seen, especially like this year, like on the field that this year that people have like had a problem with, and like how they overcome that problem or the obstacle?
Well,
I think the most,
yeah, go ahead, Steve.
I think the one thing that I've seen is the hangability of your robot. Um, and being able to execute that every time is a big thing as far as getting your points and whatnot. Um, uh, and getting back to earlier, probably one of the best things you can do is to set up a spreadsheet with and go scout all the other teams and find out what every team can do. And then use that spreadsheet to take and plan your strategy to complement them.
Yeah, just to give you a perspective on this season, when we started with the league meets, back, when was that? Sometime in October, I believe.
Right, the end of October.
Yeah, the end of October. I think I saw one robot maybe kind of try to pull up on the bar. This last weekend at the qualifier, there was at least one, if not two matches where all four robots on the field were hanging at the end. So that talks to what Steve was just talking about with regards to progressing throughout the season and improving the robot's capability and execution of the strategy.
And the other thing is a drone launch. And being able to do that successfully. I know there are a couple of teams that at the qualifier this past weekend, they were not doing a drone launch. They plan on doing it for state. So that again, that's part of the evolutionary process.
Which, just to go back to judging, should be documented in your engineering portfolio.
Absolutely.
I think the other aspect of the game this year that I've seen some improvement on is the mechanism which teams are using to grab the pixels. There are a couple of different strategies there. One's a center grab. One, I've seen several of these box mechanisms where they scoop it up into the box and then put it on the backdrop. And then, so it all depends on how fast you can move that and how accurately you can do that. There were a lot more blanking on the word right now.
Mosaics.
Mosaics, yes. Thank you, Steve. I saw a lot more mosaics this weekend than I've seen in previous tournaments.
Okay. How have you seen throughout the years how the excitement over the robot games has it changed at all? Has there been anything different throughout the years?
I think it depends on the particular game as to how much excitement it generates. And you'll see a lot more excitement at state than you have at regionals or qualifiers.
Yeah, I would have to concur with Steve on that. Different games have different levels of excitement. And it all depends on what the action is, how fast the action is on the field. There have been some pretty interesting games over time. Relic Recovery was one where the robots had to move these foam cubes, and they had to build a puzzle. And they got extra points if they completed a sequence of, I think it was 12 of those blocks or 16 of those blocks in a certain pattern. They would get extra points for them. So that was a pretty interesting game. And then I think this year's is pretty interesting too, particularly with the pixels, because that's a new and different playing field piece that hasn't been used before, and it's challenging to manipulate that.
Okay. And then to wrap it up, is there anything, any advice you guys would give on the notebook or portfolio?
The that was one of my specialty judges this last weekend. So I have, and both the notebook and portfolio have been near and dear to my heart for last 15 years. So one of the make sure that you follow everything that is in the game manual for the notebook. We want to see math. If you're doing force calculations, we want to see that. And when you have your interview, we'll ask you about that. Make sure that you actually understand what it is that you did. So just try and be as complete as you can be in the limited number of space that you have to fill out your, but touch on every aspect for each award so that we get a clear picture, because your engineering portfolio is going to supplement and document what you said in that formal interview.
And just to amplify that, it is very critical that you follow the guidance that's given in the game manual on how to prepare your portfolio. I kid you not, there was a team at the championship that forgot to put their team number on their portfolio. And because they didn't follow the rule, that portfolio was excluded from consideration. So make sure you've checked all the blocks on all the things your portfolio is supposed to have. Right number of pages, everything.
And that team name is the #1 item in your in the engineering portfolio section of the game manual. That's the first thing that's mentioned there. That's the one thing that you absolutely should have read.
I kind of feel bad for that team, honestly. That sucks.
Is there any questions from anyone else? Anyone I'd like to ask? Okay, I'm not hearing from anyone. All right. Would you like to close?
Yeah. Do you have something?
One other
Steve?
thing, don't forget to submit your control award.
Oh yeah. Maybe forgot that. Yeah, that's important. So I'd like to thank you guys for coming, especially for for Dave and for Steve to share all their wonderful experiences and advice. I'd also like to thank Allison for helping us host this and put it on. We appreciate everything you guys do for robotics in Alaska. I'd just like to close by sharing how much FIRST has impacted my life. I used to be this really shy person. Like, I would not talk to anybody or anything. And then I met Amber Cunningham, and she asked me to join her robotics team, and it changed my life entirely. The first day I was with her, she pushed me outside my comfort zone, and she showed me all the things I could do with engineering and presentations and just all this other things. And I'm just really grateful for the program. I'm really grateful for you guys, because I wouldn't have become the person I am today, and I wouldn't be being able to do these things that I never thought I could do without you guys. And I just wanted to thank you guys, because you really have changed my life, my brother's life, and a lot of other people here.
Yeah, to go off what my sister said, FIRST has impacted me in a really profound way. I know I started in 4th grade, so I didn't have a bunch of time before then. But even then, I used to get bullied a ton as a kid. And even in middle school, I used to get bullied a lot. And robotics became like a safe place for me, a place where I could go and be my weird self, a place where I could share these crazy ideas, and I could, like, through effort and through planning and through wonderful coaches and mentors, turn these like crazy ideas into things that work. And it showed me what I could do and what I could become. And I really related to that story you shared, David, because it really spoke to me and my story. Yeah, but I guess we'll kind of end it there. Such an awkward ending. But I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming. Oh, sorry. Did you have something to share, Dave?
So, my challenge to both of you and to everyone is, you've found something about FIRST that has changed your life. The question I have for you is, where are you going to take that, and where will you be in 10 years from now? Because a couple of members of that original FRC team now have their doctorates. One of them just led a research team out to St. Augustine volcano last summer, and is a professor at a university in geophysics. So where is this going to take you? And oh, by the way, it doesn't have to be STEM related. It can be any passion that you want to pursue. So keep that in mind, and thank you, because your stories are what inspires me.
Thank you so much, guys. Let's close.
I think that's everything then. Thank you guys for coming, and have a good night and stuff.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.